Well, hi there. It is not quite 10:30 in the PM and time to show up. I'm showing up. I'm glad you showed up. I appreciate every single one of you. Do a little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit, and let's shit in the box. I am deeply unhappy with things right now because this deal I made with myself is starting to wear on me. See, I need to build the menus for my game, and doing the menus and this boring crap is something that I looked at as an engineering and architecture problem, and I said, the right tool for this is GDScript, the native scripting language for the Godot engine. There's no reasonable excuse for forcing the game to context switch into managed code for the menus. There's just no excuse for that. Well, I have objections to GDScript. I don't like it, and I don't want to use it. It's not something that I think is a good language. But that's a preference, you know? It's from an engineering perspective, the goals of GDScript. There's a list of actual technical things GDScript is supposed to do, and one of the more important ones is it's supposed to ease new, inexperienced programmers into learning to program. And accordingly, they had to decide what language they were going to take cues from. Like, what language was it going to feel like? And they chose Python. I don't like Python. I have issues with Python. But new programmers who are just learning to program love Python. They find it so easy and so intuitive and so simple. And that's the target audience. That's the people that the Godot engine wanted using their scripting language. So whereas I would have chosen to do something much more like JavaScript or just like straight up use the JavaScript implementation, where I would have used something that was derived at some point ultimately from Algol 60, the Godot team decided to derive their language from Python. This is the correct choice because new programmers, inexperienced programmers who look at how Algol 60 derived languages work and how they look, they get confused and they have trouble. And the syntax is difficult for them because it's not very forgiving. And that's not the right choice for them. That's not the right scripting language to deliver to that audience. So GDScript is the right language to deliver to that audience. Good engineering decision. And using the scripting language is the right engineering choice for my game at this point. Very much. That's the right decision. That is the objectively correct decision. But I'm still the person who has to write the code. And I'm still over here going, but I don't like using indentation for flow control. I think it's dumb. That doesn't count for anything in an engineering context. When you have an objectively correct engineering argument to use a particular tool, and you go, but I don't like that tool, grow the fuck up. I am forcing myself to grow the fuck up and learn this language. I have such an objection to it. And the way that I'm forcing myself to do that is I'm not allowed to do any other creative work until I do this stuff, until I build these menus, until I build this architecture, until I learn enough GD script to make these menus and to flip between these scenes. And I'm not happy with that because it means I can't draw and I can't paint and I can't make music and I can't sculpt and there's all of this stuff that I can't do. I'm not allowed to do it because I have to do this work for the game first. And it is really starting to bother me. It is really starting to annoy me. I've got so much stuff that I want to work on that is not the menus for my game. And I've managed to stop myself and go, no, menus for the game first. End of story. You have to. Those are the rules. And I'm fighting with myself over it, but I am maintaining the discipline of following the rules that I made up for myself. Nobody is enforcing them. Nobody is watching over my shoulder. If I wanted to go and paint something or sculpt something, nobody would stop me. Nobody would tell me not to. Nobody would say, no, you're not allowed to do that. But I would know. I have to tell me, no, you're not allowed to do that. And it's very frustrating. But I have the discipline to do that. And that discipline takes time to develop. And you have to start making little stupid rules for yourself and making yourself follow them. And if you don't do that, you won't have the discipline to give yourself stupid rules that you have to follow to get shit done and then just follow them until you actually give up and get the shit done. And I'm getting really close. I'm at the point I've read multiple tutorials on GD script and rage quit them. I don't like it. I don't want to use it. I don't want to. I don't want to do it. And it's just so incredibly childish and stupid and petty. But that's how people are. That's how human beings are. We're childish, stupid, petty creatures. From the moment we're born to the moment we die, and any appearance that we've ever become anything else, we're just faking it. But I've got example projects. I've got example projects that I've read through and looked at the code, and I've watched some tutorials on making menus in GD script. And again, I rage quit the tutorials. I rage quit reading the scripts in the sample products. I read the sample project and I start going through it. I go, this is stupid. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. It's ridiculous. It really is. We're all ridiculous about certain things, and we don't want to do stuff, and we don't do it. And there's all kinds of stuff that you know better, that you know you should be doing. You know you should eat better. You know you shouldn't order a pizza. You know you can't afford to go to that concert or go see that movie. And you need the discipline to say, no, I'm not allowed to do that. I can't do this. I'm not allowed to. And you have to, not allow yourself to do things. You have to make rules for yourself and follow the rules. And you can't be like Frog and Toad in that Arnold Lobel book where they have the box of cookies. And Frog closes up the box of cookies and says, there, now we won't eat any more cookies. And Toad says, but we could open the box. That's true, we could. You need the discipline to close the box and say, okay, no more cookies. And then when your brain goes, we could open the box, you go, shut the fuck up. Of course we could open the box, but we're not allowed to. It's against the rules. That's important. I tell people all the time that you should not pirate movies and music and games and software and books and just anything. And they go, well, why? It's always moral to steal from big corporations. Because the dam will break and the big corporations will start stealing from you. Because there's so much copyright infringement out there, why would anybody avoid it? That's stupid. And now we have the garbage farting computer machine that has stolen everything any human being has ever made and used it to produce a machine on the computer that farts garbage. Great fucking job, guys. But the most important thing about not pirating media, not pirating software, not stealing the things that you want, is that it makes you into a thief. It makes you somebody who will take things that don't belong to you and not really understand or accept that it's wrong. You think it doesn't matter. You think that, oh no, I'm just going to steal this one little thing here. I'm just going to steal this one. I'm stealing from a big corporation. That big corporation employs people. One of the people it employs did the work to produce the thing that you stole. And since you stole it, the big corporation didn't make that little bit of money they would have made. And when you multiply it by all the people who steal it, they didn't make a lot of that money. If enough people are stealing it, the corporation goes, well, it's not worth paying people to make that thing anymore. And they will use it. They will use it as an excuse. Every single year, the Entertainment Software Foundation releases numbers. They say, we lost this much money to piracy. No, you didn't. You made that up. You made up in your head that if it wasn't for all these goddamn pirates, you would have made this much more money. You just felt entitled to that money, and you're mad that you didn't get it. You say it's the pirates. It's the pirates are why we don't have it. Gabe Newell really had the right approach to piracy. He said, rampant piracy is a support problem. These people want your product, but there's some reason they can't get it. Somebody else has come along and offered them the ability to just download it in a torrent. In a lot of cases, it's Russian localization. If you localize your game into Brazilian Portuguese and Russian, the overwhelming majority of piracy disappears. Because these people play a lot of fucking games. And they want to play the game in their language. And typically, you localize in English, French, Italian, German, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. Those are your 8 languages that you localize into. Because those are the markets. But Russia's a big market. You localize to that market, they will buy your game. Brazil is a big market. Localize to Brazilian Portuguese, they will buy your game. And these are good communities that are full of good people. Some of your most loyal fans are in these places because they're fucking serious about their games in Brazil and Russian. And if you don't localize to Russian and Brazilian Portuguese, you're going to have a lot of piracy in those locations, because there is an astounding community of support for taking the game that just came out, pulling it apart, and adding Russian or Portuguese subtitles to it so people can play the game in their native language. They will localize it for you and then say, our localized version is free because we're not allowed to sell it. And you'll lose way more money that way than it would cost you to localize into Russian and Brazilian Portuguese. You should do that. Not that I intend to do that with my game, because it's one of the, if the game makes money, then, you know, I'll pay somebody to localize it. But I would much rather find a Brazilian and a Russian on the Discord and go, hey, could you guys help me translate this so more people in your country can enjoy this? I've been trying to figure out a way that I could do fan translations. And the problem with fan translations is, as Mojang discovered with Minecraft, they allowed fan translations, and people would contribute their changes. And one of the African languages, somebody submitted a change to that translation that added slurs to all of the UI elements. Just to, like, randomly insult everybody in that part of Africa who wanted to play the game in their native language. They just, that's what they did. Not very nice. And that's, I don't know how to avoid that in fan translations without, like, having somebody who knows every language review them, and that's not something you can just ask a volunteer to do. You need to pay somebody to do that. That's important. So I don't know. I don't see fan translations being a real thing that I do for the game. I'm not going to use Google Translate or any kind of translation software. I'm not going to do automated translation. I'm certainly not going to use the garbage farting computer machine for it. The translations are going to need to be done by human beings. And I'm going to have to find human beings to do those translations. And I'm going to have to pay them. There's no way around that. But one of the things that I'm doing, I am preparing the game to be localized all the way from the beginning. And that's one of the things that's going to make doing the menus a little bit more complex, is that you have to do the localized files so that you can turn around and localize the game later. And I am doing all of the localization work, so English is a selectable language from a list of English. And by doing that, I'm going to understand how much work it is to do that translation. I'm going to understand whether this is a thing that takes you a couple hours, or a thing that takes you a couple days, or a thing that takes you several weeks. And that'll give me a better idea of what I should be offering to pay for it. I really need to get back in there and get this shit done. I really need to get these menus done. I really need to get the shell of the game, like, fixed and together. I've upgraded to the new Godot 4.7 well, to 4.8 dev is what I've actually upgraded to, because every time they do a release, within hours of the release, I have snapped down the latest master source code from the origin branch, and that, while there typically haven't been any modifications made to it, that's just after the 4.7 release milestone. So because it's after the 4.7 release, it's 4.8 dev. And I'm fine with that. I don't mind that. But I've got 4.8 dev, which is technically 4.7. And I need to sneeze. I think. I hate sneaky sneezes. Is it going to be a sneeze? Is it not going to be a sneeze? I don't know. Apparently it's not going to be a sneeze. That fucking sucks. Anyway. I need to go and do this work. I need to talk myself into this work. I'm forcing myself slowly but surely into it. I put a bunch of hours into Starfield and a bunch of hours into Paralives and a bunch of hours into Tectonica, and I need to put some hours into my game. I need to put some hours into my work, into my thing that I'm doing. And that resistance, man. Stephen Pressfield wrote a book called The War of Art where he talks about resistance. And he says, you know, there's this part of you that doesn't want to do any fucking work. And you need to make it do the work. You need to make that part of you do the fucking work. And I'm trying, man. I'm trying real hard. But it's not easy. We all have things we're supposed to be doing that we don't want to be doing. In a lot of cases, it's our fucking job, and we're making excuses to the boss. Oh, no. I've just got a minor problem. It's not a big deal. You're sitting there going, I haven't done a fucking thing. Nobody really likes to admit how much of their work is whining and complaining at themselves about how they don't want to do the work. If you just stopped that, you could get the work done, but I don't know why this is so difficult for me. I don't know why I have to push this hard. It's very frustrating. But I feel like it's important to be frustrated by this and to say that I'm frustrated by this and to be out loud about this kind of thing. Because if you're in this situation, you may think you're abnormal and something is fucked up about you. You're no more fucked up than the rest of us. It's just like all the people that are stuck in tutorial hell. They're watching one tutorial after another on how to do the thing they want to do, but they're never actually doing it. This is normal. You get stuck in that, but you have to walk away from the tutorials and build something. I feel like a lot of that is that the tutorials that we have available at the moment are bad tutorials. They're not very well done. They're not designed to take you closer to your goal. And I am seeing some people that are like doing much better work trying to take you toward your goal. Hovering Skull is like one of the big names that I see. And there's a couple of others that I can't remember right offhand. But there are some people out there that are doing a really good job trying to present concepts in a way that will take you closer to being able to do your own actual work instead of do what I just did and you'll have what I just made. Well, I want something slightly different. I need the thing to fit into a slightly different architecture. I need the architecture around this to be different. I need my enemies to shoot bullets, but I don't have the setup that you're putting your enemies into. That the way you're having your enemies shoot bullets isn't going to work for me because of problems, and I don't know how to resolve those problems. Well, I typically know how to resolve those problems, but I've been doing this a long time. People that are just starting out, people that are just like a year or two into programming and don't understand how to build their own stuff from scratch. They're not learning that from tutorials. And the tutorials are basically just teaching them to type the code we tell you to type. There are basically 5 different levels of this particular skill set. And you've got the hacker who cannot write code from scratch, but he can take code somebody else has written and he can tweak it a little. And then you've got the coder, and the coder can write the code, but it has to be code he's seen before. He can't write brand new code. Programmers can write brand new code, but they need to write it into the middle of other code. They need to find the place it belongs by looking at other code around it. Your hacker needs a piece of code to modify. Your coder needs a piece of code he's seen before to put into a new place. The programmer needs code around where he's putting the code, or he doesn't know that's where it belongs. And then you get to the developer, that 4th level. The developer can start from nothing. He can start from a blank text file and he can build something. And then you have the architect. The architect can explain what needs to be built without writing any code. He can explain the general shape and structure of the system that needs to be built. And then that can be handed off to a software developer to turn it into actual code. And the language is irrelevant. The language actually doesn't matter. So you got those 5 different levels. And when you're building a complete project from scratch and you don't already have like a project to follow, you're operating on that 5th level of being an architect. And a lot of people just, they don't have the background to be an architect, but they feel like they can just jump in and be one. Start small. Don't jump in and try to be an architect all the way from the beginning. Make something that you already know what it looks like. Make an existing project, an existing game, something somebody else has already made, but you're not going to look at their code. You're going to build it yourself just by looking at their game, you know? And that's, I'm kind of midway between developer and architect on this particular project because I'm building a horde survival roguelike, and I know what a horde survival roguelike looks like. I've got dozens of them. I've played lots of them. I know which ones I really like. Obviously, Vampire Survivors. Obviously, Holocure. Obviously, Bone Razor Minions is a really good one. 20 Minutes Till Dawn is a good one. There are a bunch of really good horde survival roguelikes out there. And then there's Brotato, which, well, I don't like it. I don't like Brotato. I don't think it's very good. I don't enjoy playing it. So I'm not going to do the things that they do in Brotato. I'm not going to have the particular type of upgrading and progression that they have there. I'm going to build something different. I'm going to avoid the stuff that I don't like. I was thinking about putting skill trees in the game. I thought a skill tree is like, there aren't a lot of games out there that have a skill tree. Except there really are. I just I hadn't happened to come across any of them. And since saying I'll put a skill tree in my game, that's probably a good idea. I have got like 5 different games that have a skill tree in there. And I'm like, yeah, this sucks. Yeah, I don't want to do this. Maybe I could do a better skill tree. Maybe I could do a skill tree that doesn't suck. But really, I think attributes you can raise, I think that's the direction to go with this. I think that makes more sense. So I am building the thing from scratch, but I am also building it from a series of templates. So I'm like in that midway point where it's not quite an architect thing. It's kind of like that with everything. I don't really do bare architecture. I typically have a template from some idea at least. I typically have an idea what it needs to look like, and it's fairly common for anything I build to be that game, except like that. And it's just like smashing 2 games together. Now, Kiss. I've been thinking about adding deck building elements to this game and a crafting system. Just because it would be fucked up. But I can't think of a way to make that really interesting. So because I can't think of a way to make it interesting, I'm not going to do it. If you can't make it fun, then and I like the way the game is working and running right now. I find it fairly fun and amusing. But its first 2 minutes amusing, which means it is about 8 to 10% of the final product in terms of gameplay. And there's a lot more that needs to be done. Like 90% of the gameplay still needs to be built. And I keep getting bound up in implementation issues too, thinking about how I'm going to do object pooling. Like one of the things I was thinking about with object pooling, and I've got to open the engine source and really take a look at this and go, when you call get parent, what does it do? How much does it do? Because what I was thinking was, instead of creating and deleting objects, I could move the objects from the available pool to the in-use pool. And the in-use pool just kind of sits there and holds the objects until you're done with them. And when you're done with them, they go, okay, I'm done now. And then the in-use pool goes, okay, return that to the available pool. And the way you do that is, when you need a particular object, you say, give me the first object from the available pool. And the available pool goes, do I have objects? No, I don't have objects. I'll make some objects. And it makes a bunch of objects. I've done this before, and what I have found works well is to create twice as many objects as you did last time. You start, the first time you call it, you make 1 object. Then the next time you make 2. The next time you make 4. The next time you make 8. Then 16. And then 32. And in fairly short order, after just a little short period of time, you typically have all the objects you will ever need. And once you have all the objects you'll ever need, all you do at that point is shuffle them around. And shuffling them around in this case is you go, hey, give me an available object. And it goes, here's one. I'm going to hand that off to you. And then when you're done with it, you toss it over there and it gets added to the in-use pool. So you ask for it, you initialize it, you toss it into the in-use pool. And that's just reparenting the object. And then when it hits the end of its life, the object itself messages the in-use object and goes, hey, move me over to the available pool because I'm done. You just have to cue that, because you can't do it in the middle of, you can't change the tree in the middle of a frame. I keep getting bound up in stuff like that. I keep getting bound up in questions like, am I going to do spatial partitioning? And if I am going to do spatial partitioning, how am I going to do that? And why am I going to do that? How does that work? And really all that comes down to how fast is set parent as opposed to creating and deleting objects. And I need to compare and contrast that. There are so many things that I need to test and so many things that I need to work with. And so many things that I need to go, well, what happens here? What happens when I do this? Is the engine faster? If I create objects in GDScript, how fast can I create objects? And if I delete objects for GDScript, how fast do they get deleted? And what's the memory usage like? If I do this in GDScript, what does that look like? If I do it in C#, what does that look like? If I do this without creating or deleting objects, if I use an object pool, what is that like? If I use an object pool that, if I use an object pool with magic values, is that different than using a magic pool with variance or with reparenting? How fast can I move stuff around in the tree during processing? What does the code look like when I do all of these things? I gotta do my fucking menus, man. I really gotta. There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff I gotta build, and I'm not allowed to build it until I finish the fucking menus. Gotta be done, man. It's gotta be done. I gotta get started on it. Anyway, do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. Okay, bye.